Good evening, Mr. Hookstein, and welcome, Lebanon. Exploration work has begun following the efforts you made to reach the maritime agreement. Will these efforts continue if there are any obstacles blocking the path?
Well, Linda, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, and it's great to be back in Lebanon. As you said, the exploration work has begun. And this is really a symbol of what we were all hoping, what Lebanon was hoping for all these years, to be able to get to a place of stability in the south, to have a permanent and clear and safe boundary in the water so that international companies can feel that their investment is secure. And as we had hoped and predicted, the result of the maritime agreement was investment. So Total, Eni, and Qatar Energy are the first. I hope there will be others very soon. And they're making this investment. So the platform and the rig has arrived in Lebanese waters. They've hired many Lebanese people to work on the platform and onshore. It's starting to benefit the Lebanese economy with foreign investment. And I believe that I don't expect to see any other problems that will emerge that would require my assistance. I think that the advantage of having a permanent boundary clarified is that from here on to the future, it is all settled and things can move on seamlessly.
You don't expect any obstacles?
I expect it to be smooth. Any other obstacles would be from potentially from the business side, but not from something requiring international mediation.
Will this effort extend to the land border as stipulated in the framework agreement announced by Speaker Berry in 2020?
So we had separated out the maritime boundary negotiations from the land boundary. It's not that we don't want to have a resolution to the land boundary, we wanted to do the maritime first. And I think that that signaled to everybody on both sides of the border and around the world that it's possible. That after all these decades, it is actually possible to reach a resolution on the boundary, on the border. So the question that I've been asking while I'm here in Lebanon the last couple of days is to hear the views of the leadership in Lebanon, whether or not there is a place for negotiations or for discussions of a land boundary. I don't know the answer to that. That's something that I think ultimately has to be a decision in Lebanon if they want to reach a resolution on a land border. So that's a question that I've asked while I'm here. We'll continue with those discussions. As the United States, we want to support Lebanon. We believe that Lebanon can be a prosperous, wealthy country. It has all the ingredients. It has some of the best people in the world, the best views and tourism, and Lebanese people are entrepreneurs everywhere around the world. There's no reason why they can't build a new economy here in Lebanon. To do that, you need to have good governance, an actual government, and good governance, transparency, better controls over the economy and finance and transparency, and root out corruption, and settle your internal security affairs, making sure that the country is hospitable to international investment. And if we can do those things, then I believe that there will be more investment will come from international.
You need stability, of course.
But you need stability. And the border is one of those that gives a sense of stability, for sure.
What do you find in your meetings?
What I find is that the leadership understands that it is time there's no more time left. We need to have a new direction for Lebanon that rebuilds the economy and rebuilds confidence in Lebanon. And so I find a willingness from the leaders that I met with to focus on taking the steps that are required to support Lebanon. The question is, can we take that desire and translate it into action I'll give you an example. It's not just about the border. You have to pass laws and pass regulations and take measures that will support the IMF program, that will support the World Bank assistance, that will then enable companies to make investments. Those steps can be taken today, even in this environment. The border issue is something that if this is the right opportunity, if this is the right moment, if the parties want it, not just in Lebanon, but in Israel as well, they have to want it as well. And to want it means you have to come to the table being willing to be creative thinkers and pragmatic and practical. If all sides are willing to do that, then the United States will stand ready to support Lebanon together with the United Nations and together with others to get a better outcome.
Do you have some proposal about this?
I have not come to Lebanon with a proposal, with any specific proposal. At this point, I'm just here to listen and to hear and to make a judgment on what is the best approach moving forward.
Because you know there is 13 reservation points for Lebanon, and how can you solve this issue?
I know there are 13 points, and I spent some time today in the south meeting with UNIFIL, and I flew in the south to see some of the areas of reservations, to understand it better. The question is not about how many points there are. The question is always about, because they've been there for a while. The question is, can the parties come to the table in a serious, meaningful way, in a way that we did in the maritime boundary? It's a really good recipe for how to reach agreement, even with parties that some would see as enemy or as adversary. It's still possible. If there's a willingness, the United States will be there to support Lebanon and the region to have a more prosperous future and a more stable future. But at the end of the day, decisions have to be made in Beirut, in Lebanon. They're not decisions being made in Washington.
So you'll play the same role, the similar role.
If there is a willingness here, the United States will be supportive, whether it's me or someone else. The United States will always want to support stability in this region.
Based on your experience in the field of energy, what legislation does Lebanon need today in order to achieve proper management and preservation of his oil wealth?
Well, I've been clear for a long time, as have the ambassador here and my colleagues. Passing a sovereign wealth fund law will really send a strong signal that the country intends to make sure that if there is any revenue, when there is that revenue, it will be preserved for the people of Lebanon and to support the country's development and not be victim to corruption and individuals who try to take that money for themselves or for the organizations. That is critical to do to send a signal of confidence. There are several other measures around the economy that will give confidence to the energy sector. The energy sector is not separate from anything else. At the end of the day, if they see a healthy banking system, they'll say, okay, I want to come and invest. If the IMF says, I've reached arrangements and the country has passed the laws and regulations that we want, then the energy sector will come and invest. And I can tell you that since the rig arrived, since the platform arrived in the water here, from Total and ENI, I have already gotten calls from companies asking if I thought it was safe for them, both politically and economically, to come and join in on the exploration and investment in the waters of Lebanon. So I think there's great opportunity here, and I think the government and folks in leadership here know what they need to do to keep raising the confidence level of international companies.
Lebanon is still waiting on your efforts to transfer Egyptian gas and electricity from Jordan. What has become of these efforts?
I am waiting too. I am also impatient. I think that Lebanon should have not 1 or 2 hours of electricity a day, but 24 hours a day. And I think that the gas deal with Egypt is something that we have expressed support for. The United States will continue to support that. There are measures that the World Bank has requested or has said are conditions for them to be able to provide the financing. they are known. They should be acted on. And I met with the energy minister last night, and I told him that I was pleased that he is taking some good steps, but I encouraged him to work closely with the World Bank in a collaborative manner, and for the government to implement the remaining steps and remaining reforms so that we can make that a reality. We have done everything we can to support Lebanon's ability to have the contract with Egypt and with Jordan, and to make sure the pathway of getting the gas from Egypt to Lebanon is there. We will continue to support. If we get the reforms done, we have expressed it very clearly to the World Bank that we support this if the reforms are done.
Is the U.S. position supportive of dialogue among the Lebanese?
I don't interfere in the political process in Lebanon. You have leaders here who are responsible for getting to a selection of a president. We hope, the United States, that it happens quickly and efficiently. I think that you have the Speaker of the Parliament is fairly experienced has been around running the process for selection of president several times. He knows what the process is. Far be it from me to tell anyone how it should work. I just think it should come to a conclusion, and it should come to a conclusion quickly.
And at the end, we are still in the quest of finding a president. When do you think we will be able to extract president?
That's a good question that you should ask most of the people that you interview from the different parties in Lebanon. I hope they can come together and select a president as soon as possible. It has been long enough, and I think it's time for everybody to get together and come together to unify the country and make sure that with a president there will be no excuse for leaders not to pass the kind of laws and regulations and to have a stable government that can serve the people of Lebanon. I think sometimes what's lost in Lebanon is that the role of the government is to represent the people and to do things for the people. And when those who are responsible to represent the people are busy nonstop with the politics and trying to figure out selecting candidates, they lose the focus and the ability to serve the people. That's not only true in Lebanon, that is true in the United States. That is true everywhere. And the economy here has taken a blow after blow after blow. People here are suffering from high prices, low income, and a lack of basic needs. There should be as much focus, there should be more focus on those things than on the politics of selecting candidates. So my urging in my own country and here is to always remember what the role of public service is. It's public service. It's to serve the public. And I think Lebanon deserves that from its leaders.